This episode is brought to you by MeUndies, the most comfortable underwear you will ever wear, and you can try it yourself at MeUndies.com/thumbs and get 20% off your first order and free shipping. Thanks, MeUndies.
I'm sorry that I cannot airplane mode my phone today. Because a tow truck driver might show up in the middle of this episode to take my car away, which will be captured on the air, and then everyone will be happy about it.
Oh, I pretty love that.
I love that GTA 4 does that. That was like
a little cell phone.
If you're driving in your car and your cell phone's about to go off, the radio goes right before the cell phone rings.
It's really
GTA
good.
4.
It's really convincing.
Yeah, it's great.
Jake, are you tired of old saggy underwear? Yeah, I can sound like Jake.
That sounds like Sean. Are you kidding me? It's February 5th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 197. I'm Chris Remo.
It's February 4th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 197. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Sean Vanaman.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Danielle Riendo.
And here we are on this fine morning.
Morning
Dew
cast.
sets upon our microphones, shorting them out. Sorry, podcast over. I've just been playing Jake's Wii U. I don't really have much to say about that, except I can't figure out how it actually works, like as a piece of hardware.
Works?
Oh man,
well, you don't know like how integrated circuits work? Because I don't.
No, I just mean
Sean Vanaman, console dad, can't turn on his PS4. Doesn't know how this Wii works. What's this Nintendo?
like the box and the iPad just get out of sync. And, like, I try to turn one on and turn the other
box
one
and
off.
the paddle don't talk to each other.
I know.
It froze, so I put a blanket on
I just
it.
wish I had a kid who could show me how to do it. It's like...
What is the thing that you're not able to do that you want to be able to do?
Oftentimes... So... Okay, Jake. This is... Okay. The box is actually processing the game, I assume?
Yes.
The iPad controller is just the controller.
Yeah, and it just...
I get confused because you can just be like... and walk away with...
Yeah, but it eventually loses connection because it's just
it's
totally...
just sending an
It's
image
not,
to
it's
the
not even
screen.
Wi-Fi. It's like just a total short
a
distance.
wavebird.
It's like... It basically has...
Nintendo
It has
tooth.
it's
Luigi tooth.
It's basically... Yes.
Yeah.
Bluetooth.
Oh.
What?
What about Newtooth? Because Nintendo.
Oh, God, it's new tooth?
Yeah.
No, that's the one they release.
That's
Oh, right.
I think you mean
next.
Mewtwo.
Yes.
No, it's Mewtooth. It's way more Mewtooth
It's
than
definitely
anything else.
Mewtooth.
Oh, gross.
Yes.
I'm going to go break my Wii U so you can't have it anymore. No, I think that it's very similar to whatever, just a Wavebird or something, or just a wireless controller uses, but they also blast video over it.
Sometimes their relationship is poor in my house.
Yeah.
Where the Wii U box and the...
That's because that
and the
house
pad
is just made of chicken wire, I think. Like, that house is where you, like, if you strip the walls
You
apart, it
live
would
there.
look like
Oh,
those
lead
images
and-
of, like, where, like... Remember when the iPhone 4 antenna thing happened and Apple was like, no, we have the best antenna testing facilities. And it was just this weird, crazy, like, do you not remember that?
I do remember that.
I do not remember.
I just
that.
imagine that's just what your house would look like if you stripped the thing down.
What
It's
was
just like
weird
this-
and crazy about it?
It
Don't leave
looked
me hanging.
It looked like a geodesic dome with like the spiky hypercolored foam walls, like the like dark secret chamber of spy
It
stuff.
looked like the end of Sphere.
It looked like the end
nice.
of Sphere meets the like council room from
episode 1
no.
or whatever.
My brain is just totally blanked on Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But then also just a weird like shark cage. So
Yeah. My house isn't good with signals.
but like Wi-Fi that house just eats it.
yeah,
So I imagine it also eats Mewtooth.
it does. But I don't know. I really like that Mario game. You talked about it a lot.
3D World?
Yeah, it's good. Whatever.
I meant to write a Godi.cx up for it, and I didn't. My name even shows up as a list of people who contributed to Godi.cx of that year, and then I don't have a thing listed
Do you
in
think
there.
Nintendo is consciously overdoing the sort of like cheeky gaiety of it all, though? Like, it seems like Mario,
The cats.
just the cats and the sort of like hip cocked poses at the end of a thing. Like, it's all fun and light, but it feels like it's like getting to the point of self parody.
The place
I feel
It's
that
like
way
Christopher
about,
Walken now.
I feel I feel that way about a certain strain of like commercial product in the culture right now, just in general. I feel like the whole kind of just like, just don't worry about it. It's just everything's kind of fun and great. Like there's a whole thread to that in like current marketing and product design culture that is becoming incredibly grating.
It's funny because I don't
think that's the same thing, though.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that the way that Nintendo is doing this feels like a tone-deaf version of, like, I've watched the VHS tape that you would send to a kid to try to get them to go to Walt Disney World in 1997, where, like, costumed Mickey is on top of Epcot, just sort of, like, waving his body around. And, like, that's just how Mario moves all the time. That's how the music is all the time. Like, it feels like they're just like, how does Disney make Mickey Mouse look? Except that Mickey Mouse isn't actually a character in anything anymore. His job is just to dance around like that. So it's really strange when it's in Mario.
I can't tell because Nintendo's incapable of winking at the camera. Like, Nintendo doesn't have that in their repertoire, either culturally or as a company ethos.
They do, but not in
really
that
true.
way.
They do in certain games.
Right, the Mario RPG ones, sure, but those are actually like comedy games, I think.
They do them in any of the games that are slightly off the beaten path. They get a little more sassy with it. But mainline Mario is just, it feels like they're just like Mario as Mickey Mouse. That's what it always feels like to me. But that's different than the sort of that everything's happy, just be happy attitude. Feels like that comes from like disingenuous tech company rhetoric to me. But then it's sort of bled out into the community, like into everything.
I think it's a larger generational thing, but yeah.
Like, just every company that could at one point have had an ad brief that has basically a Zooey Deschanel ripoff singing on a ukulele as like little hand-drawn things like...
Well, that's just like twee culture, right? I mean, that's
but
not what I'm talking about necessarily.
I know, but like that seems like the thing that blends into everything's happy, just be chill stuff, whereas Mario dancing around feels different than that.
Okay,
So there's a really good question here, and that is sort of when Mario games used to be really trippy. Like really, really trippy.
It used to be. Those cat outfits.
Okay, they still are, but
riding around a giant
there's
shoe.
a huge tone change between like Super Mario World, where it's, funky, and like if you beat Star World, everything turns into a pumpkin.
Right, where everyone's
versus,
suddenly wearing
like,
masks of Mario's
happy,
face.
cute. Yeah, exactly. And then it becomes like happy, cute dancing. Like I can't really pinpoint exactly where that happened.
I think it's when Charles Martinet started voicing Mario. I think it's Mario 64.
Mario 64
I think
is
you're
the
right.
moment.
It is, because at that point when Mario is silent, I'm not saying that there's like a weird darkness to Mario games, but they're very ambiguous as to how they're intended to be perceived. I mean,
Right. Well, Mario's just a guy
yeah, Mario's just
Right.
who's excited about things. It's really different than Mario just like moving through the world as an avatar.
I think that it is the voice of Mario that came about with Mario 64, though, because when they did Super Mario Advance, which was when they ported Mario 2, 3, World to the Game Boy, they put all the voices in, so it meant that you were playing Mario World or Mario 3, and every time you jumped, you'd hear, woohoo! And
Oh,
like,
God.
Whoa, it's so different. It totally
really
feels
is.
different.
It's funny because Super Mario 64 doesn't feel as cockamamie and surrealist because the premise is such. Like, you start off and it's actually really grounded. You're just going into a castle and there's a princess trapped in the keep.
Yeah.
But then you
And
leap
then
into paintings.
You leap into paintings, but that mode of leaping into paintings means that like this is magical and surreal, right? Like you're stepping into a magical world. I don't know why I'm fucking talking about this.
I know you
No,
mean, like, whereas
but the actual fiction is giving you a reason why it is surreal.
Yeah, and it feels like
There's
it
a
feels
mechanic
like a
to it.
world map
Exactly
that
right.
contains madness.
Right.
Also,
and they're
even
oscillating
before-
between those two modes of a world map that is an abstract, like almost like board game of crazy,
Like in 3D World.
yeah, or whatever the fiction of Galaxy is.
But even
Which is-
Galaxy has those abstracted just chunks of object, but like
Yes.
Am I
Yeah.
incorrect in? I could be totally wrong about this because I'm sure all you guys have played more Mario games than I have. But is Mario 64 the first one where there's actually like exposition at the beginning. Like you get a note from Peach, and she's like, "I baked you a cake" or whatever. And there's actually like Mario has a goal, like
Mario 3.
Nope.
Actually, even
she
Mario
gets
1.
stolen.
Yeah, there's little notes and things right in the beginning of Super Mario Brothers.
No, it's not. No way. Mario 1 just says Super Mario Brothers. You press start. It says World 1-1, you're live, and it goes do do do
Okay.
do do do. That's it. They added a lot of stuff over the years. Like if you play the Game Boy versions, they have opening cutscenes added to some of them and stuff.
yeah.
Like, I think
There's still
exposition
princesses
of-
in another castle.
Yeah.
There's still
But
fiction.
that's it. That's coming out of nowhere. That's
Right.
like
That's
you just
sure.
do a bunch of shit, then suddenly it's
And
like
then all of a sudden
the princess
she's-
is
yeah, the
another
princess
castle.
in
Like,
another
what
castle
that?
is in the same league as you're playing Zelda 1, and you walk into a room and the guy says it's dangerous to go alone. Take this,
Right.
and you're like, oh.
It's like totally elemental.
Okay.
Although
Yeah.
Zelda 1 actually has like a 4 screen height narrative scroll.
Yeah,
if you
I don't
press
think
start.
those are really comparable.
But I just meant that in-game messaging.
yeah.
But I don't think so. I mean, Mario 2 has story, but it's because they had to totally retcon Mario 2 into being a Mario game because
Yeah.
it's a reskin of Doki Doki
Yeah.
Panic. Like, if you don't press start, it says like Mario, and I think it's another one where they're at a goddamn picnic, but Mario like has
on
a
vacation.
dream that he was following and went through a strange door and entered a strange world or something, and then you press start and he falls and enters a strange
Right.
door.
Okay, so I didn't really play that one. So I guess,
But
so-
no, you're right.
No, I'm not saying. I was just saying that's why I didn't.
The first thing that was the
Pick
closest
up
to
on
a cutscene in a Mario game was in 64. Really.
And that,
There's like
that
Yoshi's Island
fundamentally
stuff.
Well, but
of, like, gotta take care of the babies.
Oh, you're right, man. You're right. That
and
stuff
shit like
did
that.
creep into later stuff because
Like it was, they started to lay.
that's
because
because Yoshi's Island was a
that.
prequel, so it did have
Yeah.
that stuff. It had there was a little music box that told a story about how the stork accidentally dropped
And
two
Mario
babies.
RPG for Super NES was like a hardcore
Yeah, but
story.
that's
Yeah,
not
that's
like
like
a-
I
I
know
feel like
it's
that's
a completely
different
different mode of game, but it feels like the Super Mario 64 had like they
Yeah.
sort of pushed out the boundaries of what a Mario game could be. So when Mario 64 came out, it was like, no, we're telling a story. And I think that's probably I think there's probably a subconscious desire to want to do that when you go 3D because
Yep.
it just feels like, oh, this
yeah,
is cinema.
suddenly you actually have to abide by the laws of physics, at least nominally. Whereas in 2D you don't. You can just have a block floating in 2D and it doesn't mean anything. But in 3D, if you have something floating, it's like, is it an island that's like floating there? Like it suddenly everything becomes more concrete.
It's why
you can't play with just like completely invented perspective the way you can in 2D.
Mario 3D Land and 3D World are really enjoyable to me because of that. Because they just kind of said, "Okay, fuck it, we're not." They don't give you the full free camera that you get from 64.
That's
which
the
is
only
kind of,
reason they can do that, really, I'd assume, right?
That's not entirely the case because the game fades in and out between different camera modes. So there are times when it just works like that. I think they just sort of said, the reason that Mario games are actually kind of appealing is because of the fact that they just don't care about that stuff. So there's kind of some land constructs, but then it's just like there's just floating blocks and weird things that flip around and everything. They're just floating in the air. Like they just don't care about it.
It's funny because I played this new Mario with two people who had played Mario Galaxy, who had played Super Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy. And those are only and everything on the NES. And that was pretty much their body, like they're all
That's
everything
funny though
they knew
because
about Mario.
3D World is actually kind of the closest you get to a mix of Galaxy and the NES Mario.
Sure, yeah, but 3D World is that's the new one.
Yeah,
on
3D
Wii U.
World.
That's the one I'm playing. I just don't even know anymore. Nintendo can't fucking name anything. It was way too much for them.
As far as like the woohoos and stuff? Or-
No, just like too
The actual
much
gameplay?
everything.
Oh, man.
Coming out of the screen, the rules of what you could do. You're a cat in the first world.
That's great.
Yeah.
What level 1-1? You're like, rare. Like it was just far too much. And then it wasn't until Luke was like, "Oh, we have to just get all of the green stars. Like that's our goal. Like that's our personal. We're not moving on until we get all 3 green stars." That it just felt like a Mario game to them. But it was
Okay.
like I saw Chelsea and Luke just like grabbing for anything that was just like a concrete thing that they could latch onto.
It's funny because 3D World is definitely a game for people who have played a million Mario games because it's basically
Can you
just...
imagine if that was your first video game?
Oh God.
The thing is, I think that's, in some ways, that's probably close to an experience you'd get had you not ever played a video game and played Mario 1, except that Mario 1 is so much more approachable since it's 2D.
But even then, Mario 1, I mean like NES Mario?
Yes.
Still stacks the rules of Mario so slowly.
That's true.
You get a big mushroom for like...
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like you don't get fireballs until World 2, I don't
No,
think.
you get
know what I
fireballs in
No,
there
you
pretty
get
early.
fi-
Oh, you do? Okay.
But like, World 1-1 is really good at
you
teaching
get-
how to play in Mario 1.
Yeah, in new Mario 3D World, the concept of okay, I'm big, but when I get the cat bell, I get one that goes in my stash, and then I can make that come out, and I have to think about when to use that. Is just like that game assumes you've played so much Mario, which I think is great. But I sat there thinking about if I hadn't ever played a video game before.
Yep.
This is just, it's absolute chaos. It's which is weird for a Nintendo game, in my opinion.
That's why I like that game a lot. There are a lot of people who don't like 3D World, but whatever.
They're wrong. So Apex was this weekend.
What is that?
Apex is a very high-level Smash Brothers
More
tournament.
Mario talk.
I'm sorry. I know
Mario's
it's still
just one of the
Nintendo.
many components of Smash Brothers.
Not a single person in the tournament played as Mario.
Is Mario in the meta right now?
Probably.
Is Mario what?
In the meta right now?
I guess.
When is Mario ever in the meta? Who?
I know nothing about Smash except that person who won a round of this was crowd surfed through a sea of really excited Smash fans, which made me really excited to see on Twitter.
See, that's the part that I really like, because I'm interested in Smash, but I'm much more interested in sort of the bizarre and interesting culture around it, and like how long lasting the Melee, which is the GameCube version, has been. Like, that was the thing people were really excited about this year at the tournament. Actually, there was a whole thing about it. The original venue caught on fire and they had to relocate last minute to like some random place in New Jersey. All this drama sort of surrounded this tournament.
Heard about that.
It was originally going to be in Los Angeles.
Yeah, right, basically. It was, so Patricia was there. She was actually there covering it and everything. And I was getting dispatches from the field, as it was going on, that sort of thing. I just think it's interesting. I think that it's interesting that Melee was more popular than the new Super Smash Brothers, which it has a competitive,
Yeah, that's been consistent through two Smash Brothers is now, though.
That's
We've
true.
talked about that.
I kind of thought that this one would be more popular with the competitive set, because they kind of got rid of some of the stuff. Like, Brawl wasn't great for the competitive set.
Those people are never going to leave that game at this point, I don't think.
They just love it so much.
Playing Super Smash Bros. Melee on a CRT television is just how that goes, and that's how it's just going to be until the end of time.
Forever and ever.
But it's cool that there's enough of a scene that there's a big competition for it, and not just as the novelty guest spot inside of EVO, which is
it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was a big deal. I saw the guys at Twitch talking about it quite a bit.
That's cool.
One thing that was crazy, the person who won the new Smash Brothers for Wii U, I guess is the official name of it. The person who won that was actually booed because it was sort of like, okay, now we can't actually watch the Melee version. Things were running late because, again, the fire kind of set everything off, and organizing the event was a nightmare. And so the schedule was off. So Smash Melee was supposed to happen at a certain hour, and that's what everybody was excited for. But instead, because of all this sort of
they ran a tournament for the Wii U version.
Yes.
And it just got booed.
And nobody cared. And basically people were like, they just didn't even care when somebody won. And he was like the grand winner, and he had the trophy and everything. And people were just like, Melee! And apparently he was just kind of like,
where's your wave bird? I'm using a wave bird.
Basically. It was kind
There's
of
a crazy gray market, or gray market for the hubs. Those wave bird
yeah,
hubs
there
that you
is.
have.
It's
Jake has two of them.
Classic Nintendo form. They made
just enough of them to be annoying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Nintendo
really
has
bad.
been doing that for years, including with actual video games.
Yeah.
It's,
Like Pikmin 2?
Yeah.
And Metroid Prime Trilogy.
There's so many games where they will publish, they just sort of decide in advance, we're not going to sell a lot of these. Which is fine. I mean, that's what you have to do.
Right, but then when you do sell a lot of them,
you're
like,
sell them out,
turn the machine back on, keep making them.
Exactly. It is really strange. They do it all the time. And
they're already making amiibos in that factory.
Yeah,
so,
basically.
That's true. Nintendo also frequently, I feel like, does a thing where they sort of quietly only sell things through one exclusive retail partner, but then just don't really tell anyone. You just have to sort of find out that, I can only buy this one thing from Best Buy for some reason. And it's not even like Best Buy promoting it as a thing, because you can't promote, weird hub peripheral as a cool exclusive Best Buy thing. It's just only there, and then they sell out and you can never buy them again. It's a strange
I'm so glad that I
philosophy
accidentally
Nintendo
added
has.
that USB to GameCube adapter into my Best Buy cart twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have two. I had an order from the morning, and then I went back. I was like, I didn't do that, and I put it on my phone again and pressed submit. And then I went to the store, and they're like, "You bought two of these." It's like, goddamn right, I did.
Meant to do that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Anyway, Smash Brothers,
Cool.
Mario Brothers, Smash Brothers.
So many
I'm only
brothers
playing
today.
3 games, and like literally.
And they all are brothers. Brothers,
every
Dota
Dota brothers.
Yeah, Tale of Two Sons.
CSGO brothers.
Nice.
Did you guys see that this is not related, but did you guys see that should have talked about this last week when it was more current, but the new finance minister of Greece was that guy that Valve employed as their chief economist for like 2 years or something? What a crazy thing.
I imagine all the jokes have been made about Greece opening hat stores and whatever else. Right? Like that has to
I'm sure
that has to all exist.
It just blew my mind because I was watching all of not watching on TV because who watches news on TV anymore? I guess some people probably.
Old people do. But that's about it.
I was just kind of reading about all the Greece stuff because I don't know, it was just big news a couple weeks ago, and then I saw that guy's name and I'm like, weird. Like I actually know who an economist is. Like I was really like proud of myself because I'm like I saw the name and I had the like recognition. Like oh wow, like some like finance minister of a relatively like not like necessarily a major world economy at this point in the way that like
they're a notable nation in the history of
but
humanity.
I'm like, wow, it's like
New
really
Greek head of tourism, Doug Lombardi.
Whoa! What if it turns out that this is just like a slow, like creeping tentacle move for Valve to just acquire a sovereign
Valve
nation?
has so much money, and
let me
Greece
finish that
has
thought.
so little money.
Let me finish my other thought real quick because I may have miscommunicated what I was saying about myself. I saw that and I was pleased with myself that I knew who this was.
Oh, and then you said,
I
it's a video game
that
guy.
The reason I knew it was, yes, it's because I read that guy.
I know a noted
time.
financier.
Yeah. Oh no.
It's just because he was working on that Steam stuff. He made Steam sales profitable.
Yeah.
Valve could probably buy the entire city of Athens straight cash. Just
Probably.
If the new TF2 update has like an Acropolis map, you gotta like pay attention.
The signs were all there.
At this point, the way that Valve has gone, I could see jokes related to that making their way into TF2, right? Because isn't so much of that stuff just community driven at this point?
It seems like it. Well, Valve has a little bit of control over what's going on with TF2, but a lot of it is just how open the floodgates are.
But I also could just see that becoming just some like tongue in cheek. Thing that even Valve themselves
sort of like
makes
Australian, I guess, man.
The man.
All
stuff.
the Manco stuff and Australian Christmas. That's all because Robin Walker is from Australia.
That's what I mean.
That's driven
in
by
the same vein.
It's driven by the creatives at Valve, but then sort of brought to light,
reinforced by the community.
Attached by the community.
I got briefly incredibly excited by Team Fortress 2 again because I just was like, oh, I'll go check out the site and see what's going on with TF2, and The most recent update was, hey guys, we have a beta of a new game mode that we're testing. It's a mode which is derived from Capture the Flag, but there are various tokens out in the world that give your characters buffs of different styles, and everyone has a grappling hook. Ooh. And I was just like, what? This is it just basically turned it into exactly what it felt like if you were playing old original Team Fortress, but then you just glommed 3 other shitty mods into the same Quake mod directory and just hoped that all of the different Quake C files would not step on each other and you could just run this disgusting amount. And that's what it feels like. And it's like, it's not good, but it is fun because it's just like, what if TF2 was a hot mess the same way that basically games of its history were. But then I went on the forums because I played a couple rounds and got excited about it. And it was just like, it was nothing but people complaining, saying Valve introduced this like a month or 2 months ago, and then they put out a couple updates to it, and now we haven't heard from them, and the TF2 website isn't updated at all.
That exact same... I'm sorry, but that exact same thing is going on in Dota right now.
It's bumming people out.
Really?
People are really bummed. Yeah.
Wow. That's strange.
Yeah. Well, there's all these features in the client right now that just don't do anything anymore. You used to like gain levels, and as you gain levels, you would get like a prize every 5 levels. That's done. But you still gain levels. You're still getting like points every time you do a match, but it means nothing.
There's like a vestigial.
Yeah, there's all these. There's vestigial limbs all over the client right now, and everybody's like, people are saying that they're moving Dota 2 to Source 2.
That's what people are saying about TF2 as well. Is that there's an in-house effort to bump all these things up to a new engine.
So all the stuff will get left behind. But right now, people just feel abandoned. Yeah. And something that's also happened is they redid the entire like drop system in Dota 2, so you don't get drops anymore. The only way to get in-game items is to just buy a chest or buy the item.
Whoa, there's no free drops?
No free drops of items and no free drops of chests. So you have
That's crazy because that was the whole reason that it was okay that game was free to play.
there are no free drops now. You either just buy stuff or you play the game.
Wow.
What do you mean you play the game?
There's no drops inside the game, period, of anything.
So you don't get any new cosmetic items ever unless you spend money.
Exactly right.
That's so crazy. That's shitty.
Well, the downside of that is
Everything.
the marketplace. The
what happens when your finance minister, your economist leaves?
This is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. The outcome of that is that the TF2 item marketplace.
You mean Dota 2?
The Dota 2 item marketplace has fucking tanked by like 50%.
All right, because there's nothing to weigh it against.
There's nothing going into
Because
the
there's-
market. It's just people like going to the store, and it's just like the same way there's no
why would you
market for
trade?
used tennis shoes. You just go to the store and buy tennis
Right,
shoes.
because if there's a free drop frequency, like a percent chance that you're going to get that item, that's the thing that you rate against the like. Otherwise, there's no influx of anything, right?
So like
Weird.
it's really crazy. The market is just collapsing.
I wonder if that's the
They're
case
gonna
in
get that
TF2 as well. I feel like if they
Greek
put that
guy
in
back.
Thanks, Greece.
I feel like if they put that in TF2, people would lose their minds because TF2 is. I mean, not that TF2 is nothing without that, but the way.
Well, the Dota 2 community
TF2
keeps
wouldn't-
pointing out that the CS:GO community is or the CS:GO marketplace is thriving because crates drop, you spend keys to get
Right,
things,
that's
and there's
so
a
weird
rarity
that they
chance
pull
or
that
whatever.
out,
All
like-
that stuff is gone.
TF2's
Very
whole
strange.
thing wouldn't work without those things being drops because in TF2 they actually have mechanical properties. So if you only could buy that stuff, but otherwise through play you just were the stock character from 2008 or whatever. Woof. Interesting, but like Valve.
The tutorial system in Dota is like been left behind. Like there's a bunch of shit that's just sort of like
'Cause I know
dangling.
People
When did
like
this happen? Like, is
it's
this
just sort
super
of
recent?
somebody just sort of like I was reading a forum about it, and there was a big post that sort of collected all the vestigial bullshit.
This makes
that's
me
been
really
left
curious
behind.
as to what Valve's going to be doing at GDC in a few weeks because Valve last year they went. It was it last year or 2 years ago? They went all in on CES, Steam Dev Days. They were just going
Yeah,
crazy.
they didn't do any of that this year.
And this year they said, we're not going to CES. We're saving all of our news for the Game Developers
Oh, I
Conference.
didn't even see that. Okay.
So stay tuned for that.
Did they mention why Dev Days didn't happen, or did they not? They're just not.
I imagine that Dev Days didn't happen because they had nothing to announce.
Yeah.
Because, like, what are the... Steam boxes, all anyone knows is from last Dev Days. Like, that's, the last time they talked about any of this stuff. But, like, right now it feels like... I hope there's a big wave that's going to break at GDC from Valve news because the receding waterline on all of their games, their hardware announcements, their OS announcements, like just everything is just like, what? Yeah, but like going into the TF2 community and seeing people just being like, where are you? Because like they did one big community update, and that's what reminded me of that, Chris, when you said that. Like the last major TF2 thing was like, it was our second community update, and it was to the point that like, it had an animated film attached to it, but it was entirely made by the community and source filmmaker. Like it was all like the web page, everything about it was 100% community made. So then when Valve was like, and what we're doing is an all new, like first class game mode for Team 4. Okay, just kidding. We're gone for 2 months and this absolute silence. Like it just makes you imagine that office building just being empty, but you know it's full of people crawling around doing something.
Well, I mean, it feels like they're living in this world of. If you think of how many irons they have in the fire, of how much shit their company's actually responsible for now, or at least has made themselves responsible for by announcing or like putting into beta, there's still only like 300 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all in Greece.
I remember I saw an interview. I should have found this interview before the show. It didn't occur to me that I'd be talking about this on this particular episode, but I saw an interview with like Yanis Varoufakis, what is his name? Varoufakis, who's their former economist, now the Greek finance minister, and it was just a very tiny aside, like it was a tiny little thing where
he's like Half-Life 3 shipping 2016.
like he was like obviously mainly talking about his goals for the Greek economy, but like one question asked him about the Valve thing, and he was just in just like a little thing. He was talking about kind of flat structures and so on, and then he was talking about his like ideas, and there's just a little moment where he said like, "Oh, this stuff maybe didn't work so well in an actual like for-profit corporation, but like I would like to try a lot of these ideas in like whatever." It was just something like that, and it just read like a weird, like a tiny little just like
little dig.
thing about. Well, I read it to be I can't describe I wish I just found the interview because I'm doing a terrible job. But I read it as him like not being over the moon about the way Valve is managed.
Right. Okay. So the thing that's interesting to me about that quote is it does pull back the curtain in a different way than I would have expected, which is that Valve. Like, okay, so Valve basically, when they spent their time as just a silent black box that made money forever, and it felt like you're like, how the hell do they do that? And then when they kind of started talking around the time of the orange box, they're like, well, actually, what we have is a crazy in-house like psychologist who measures eye movement, and we have our own economist and all these things. And then recently, it's actually felt like that big black box is actually just like bouncing at a high speed off a cliff and down a hill, but it's still somehow every time it hits the ground, like gets twice as big and makes twice as much money, and you don't know how that happens. So to hear that guy leave and be the finance minister of Greece and be like, yeah, it didn't actually work.
I don't think he meant it didn't work monetarily. I don't think he meant it wasn't profitable.
Well, I guess I just mean like it sounds like the calculations and ideas that I had didn't. I don't know. It implies a not one-to-one correlation between their master plans and their success. Which maybe that's not the case, but that feels like what Valve is. I don't know.
Still. It's like it's hard. Well, one, like no one has an inside view to that company, which makes and like they're so much weirder than every other company that makes it even harder to like make any guesses about. But also, I think that Valve they just kind of to some degree their decisions on a day-to-day basis are less impactful than they would be at most companies because they're always. Like for the foreseeable future, they're always going to have Steam there.
Right. It's very much like Google and search, where that thing is search ads in Google are always just going to make them money forever. Google AdWords and Valve has Steam, but then the rest of the company just feels like it just is zigzagging crazily until it can find anything that sticks remotely like that.
That's actually why I think it's a little bit disingenuous when Valve talks about things like we have the highest like revenue per employee or income or like profit per employee.
Right, but then it's like if you cut all the...
That's not really... Like,
well, it's true if you just consider the Steam Marketplace people. Like the Steam team probably even... like
right, it's just like that's just suddenly true mainly because of Steam. Like,
right.
I don't know if it's fair to like sort of get to sort of have that statistic that applies to your entire company when the real reason that's happening more than... Not that they wouldn't be profitable without that. I'm sure they still would be with TFT.
If you're applying that as like proof.
But as like a world-beating...
Right, it's like, we're brilliant. Anyway, actually, the guy, our economist, is now in charge of a country, which I guess you could spin to be profitable, too. I gotta go deal with my car. I'll be back.
Okay. Let's take a break.
Car time.
Cheese in it.
Oh, no, cheese car.
Video games.
We would like to thank a sponsor that we had a while back, and they're back this week and I think next week, ProFlowers. Valentine's Day is a couple weeks away, and ProFlowers is a great way to
not even a couple weeks. Keep that in mind.
Less than 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
It's next week.
10 days.
Next week.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
it's a great way to get somebody you care about some beautiful flowers sent to their home, office, or where else could they be sent?
Warehouse,
gym,
their doctor's office. If they have a nice like Valentine's Day trip,
pumping weights and get some flowers.
He or she is sitting there like doing curls. What do you do at a gym?
Yeah, I do a lot of curls.
ProFlowers actually did send us some flowers, and they are beautiful. They come up like they're perfectly like well wrapped and taken care of. You put them in the vase, and they just sort of like come
flower
to life
food
instantly.
Oh, flower food, yeah.
I was really impressed with the like. I took them out of the box, and I was like, okay, they're flowers, but then once you put them in a vase, it's like, ta-da! They like really they wake up.
Yeah,
great. So you can go to proflowers.com, click on the blue microphone in the top right corner, and type in thumbs. Hundreds of blooms of love with a free glass vase for just $19.99. And you can upgrade to gourmet chocolates and a stuffed bear for $10 more. And you can use the code thumbs by clicking on the blue microphone. Thanks, ProFlowers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Video games. And if you want to just up your Valentine's game into new and decadent levels. Another returning sponsor is here. You may remember Sherri's Berries. They will ship chocolate-covered strawberries to... I'm not going to go through the list of all the places they can send them.
To your gym, though.
To your gym. Definitely where I want those.
Definitely home office at the minimum. But, other places with addresses as well. These things are great. We got more of them in the office the other day. They are delicious. They're strawberries with chocolate and other nuts, other chocolates studded on them, whatever. They are delicious. You can go to berries.com, BERRIES.com, click the microphone in the top right corner, type in thumbs. You're going to get a whole page of deals that you get as an Idle Thumbs listeners. It's 40% off. You can get a whole set for $19.99. It's really good. It's great. They're delicious. We love them. The person that you love will also love them. Person you
want to love,
to love
you,
will be impressed. Maybe the person you hate, you can maybe upgrade to begrudging respect. So berries.com, click the microphone, type in thumbs. You'll get all kinds of deals.
Thanks, Sherry's Berries.
Video game. Okay, so Andrew from Melbourne writes.
Hi, we're back.
That's not what he wrote, but that's also true. He says, "Hey Chris, I've been going through the Idle Thumbs back catalog recently, and
to you."
Yeah.
Well, everybody take 5.
You always read the reader mail, so I understand.
Why don't I read it to you? Because if it's just to you, it feels like that's better, right?
If you want.
Yeah, I think I'd like that.
Sean writes.
What's the reader's name? Andrew from Melbourne writes to you, Chris. Hey, Chris.
Oh, hi there, Andrew.
Hey, so I've been going through some of the Idle Thumbs back catalog recently and just came across an episode where you mentioned playing Klax and that you were looking for a version to be able to play at home.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. Well, I'm not sure if someone has already sent this, though, but there was a port of it that was released on Game Boy Color that can be bought pretty cheaply.
Huh.
I still have a copy from when I got it years ago and my Game Boy Color for Christmas, and after listening to the podcast when I went home, I started playing it and got addicted to it all over again. I hope this message finds you well.
It does.
Andrew from Melbourne.
Thanks, Andrew.
G'day, mate.
Oh, man, is that what he said?
He does not say that.
Oh, what he actually said is, and now I'm never writing it again.
What? Why? He spelled color with a U. I did.
That's
As
lovely.
How was my Andrew from Melbourne? Pretty good?
It's good. I don't know, but I would assume it's good.
I hope it's good.
You and Andrew sound the same. I get you confused all the time. So,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, Game Boy Color. I couldn't remember when Game Boy Color came out, but it came out in 1998. So,
80, really?
98. Game
Wow,
Boy
I
Color
thought it
is
was earlier
98.
than that. Okay.
No, Game Boy Color was like
I played Half-Life on my
That's
Game
crazy
Boy
because
Color.
yes.
that was the first console I ever had. Was
A Game Boy Color?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
But so that means that the Game Boy Color Klax could still say it is the 90s, and there's whatever it is. There's time for Klax. Is that?
It is the 90s, and there is time for Klax.
Yeah, so it could still there's, but not very much because it's like 1998 or 9 probably
Right. There's 600 days left.
for
for
Klax.
Klax.
Man, yeah, no, I would be pretty pleased to have a Game Boy Micro because you can still play Game Boy Color games in that, right?
Oh man, I don't know the GBA Micro. I think that's still.
Or was that the one where they cut it off?
I'm not sure.
Well, whatever the smallest Game Boy is, where it basically just has a Game Boy Color Klax cartridge, I would be happy to have that.
I
Just
bet that the
lying around.
smallest Game Boy Color that can play Klax is you just getting a Raspberry Pi and putting some controllers on it or some buttons on it, and then just putting a Klax ROM into it. But if that's the case,
I guess that's
fuck
true.
that. Just run MAME Klax. Get the real Klax. You should build yourself Klax to go. Now there's always time for Klax.
Nice.
I don't know if a MAME cabinet can be subtitled "to go."
No, I mean get a Raspberry Pi or something. Get a little tiny integrated circuit. Put MAME on it.
I thought you switched from that to MAME cabinet.
No. I said I realized if you're building a little tiny integrated circuit thing, why run the Game Boy emulator when you can just...
you can make it look like a cabinet. It could be a little tiny cabinet.
You can make it look like the box art to Klax, which everyone should look up in their spare time.
Yeah.
Because it is...
Or right
there's
now.
the 90s, and there is time for this Klax box art to the goddamn max.
Oh, it's
my
beautiful.
God.
That is
It's
not
beautiful.
what I was expecting.
The Klax box art is almost available from MeUndies as the 90s underwear pattern.
Nice.
All right, so let's see. We got multiple emails about games doing random things. So we're following up on our discussion last week about random chance of a thing in a game.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, the skeleton.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Johnny Driggs, who is our valiant YouTube uploader and
Our YouTube
Cataloger,
annotator,
archivist.
go to if you want to watch or listen to our podcast via YouTube with extremely extensive annotations, you can go to youtube.com/idlevideos. That's all done by our buddy Johnny Driggs. Anyway, he writes, "Hey Thumbs, hello Thumbs. Your discussion of creating games that insert special content for a minuscule percentage of players made me consider how games are almost innately like this due to the existence of bugs. Of course, a lot of bugs are easily identified as such and don't have the same impact, but sometimes they can produce the same effect you were talking about. When I played Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, I reached the end of the game when you're separated from Farah, your companion, throughout. The prince is trying to return to the top of the tower, and and catches glimpses of her heading there herself. At one point, I saw her standing midway up a cliff. I thought, oh, that's cool, she's waiting for me, and Prince of Persia over there. I expected to trigger a cutscene, but she just stood around. She still had full AI, so she turned to face me wherever I stood, but she remained totally silent. I couldn't tell if it was a weird dream sequence or I wasn't triggering something. Eventually, I left her where she was and made my way to the tower, where she already was.
Okay.
It was never acknowledged, and I couldn't tell if it was a glitch or some weird story thing. Eventually, YouTube became a thing, and I looked up the sequence for myself. It turned out my experience was unique. So either Jordan Mechner beat you guys to the punch, or it was some random bug. Either way, it was a fun experience.
The question is, did she say "fuck you" when he got to her?
Let's wait for the next email. So, P.S. Thanks for mentioning the YouTube channel so much recently. I'm glad it's being used for something as cool as ThumbsDB. Sincerely, Johnny Driggs. So, next email here. Oh, man, we have 2 more emails about this. Sorry. This is not the one that's relevant to what you just said, Jake. Okay, so Marshall Cheney writes, Hi, folks. Your recent discussion about building a game that would randomly mess with a small percentage of players reminded me of the Lionhead game, Black and White. That was the God Sim, best known for the AI creature that would learn from you, but that's not the relevant bit. The game would look at your Outlook contacts and name little villagers after them. Outlook access also meant the game knew your name. In a seemingly unrelated feature, whenever one of your villagers died, a voice would whisper a creepy, death. I can't remember how that was, even though I played that game, so I don't know if I was imitating it correctly. Now for the fun part. If you were playing late at night and your first name happened to be about one of the 200 most common names, then sometimes when a villager died, the creepy voice would whisper your name instead.
Oh.
Keep up the good work.
Whoa!
Marshall, yeah.
Nice.
That's good.
P.S. Not too long ago, you mentioned the video of the guy with the 3 PS3s. That was actually a sketch from the comedy troupe Loading Ready Run. I bring this up because their Twitch channel, specifically member James Turner's show, is called Video Games with Video James. Just thought you'd appreciate that name. P.P.S. I'm one of the odd readers who found out about your Kickstarter from the announcement in the podcast RSS feed, in case you're still curious about that information. We're not really, but it's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marshall. All right, so I have at least one more email on the same topic here. Eric Lehman writes, Hey guys and Danielle, I was listening to episode 195's theoretical discussion about a developer randomly disrupting someone's game by inserting completely inappropriate profanity into an otherwise innocuous situation. This called to mind Grin's 2009 Bionic Commando reboot, the 3D one, not the cool 2D remake. Like any late-aughts action game, Bionic Commando delighted in subjecting the player to pre-fight dialogue sequences. If you died while fighting a boss, you'd be treated to all the dialogue that preceded it again and again until you either won or quit. In one particular instance, you have to fight this giant mecha worm thing. Your commander buzzes with some dialogue stating, Spencer, there's no way out. You'll just have to fight it. After dying 10 or whatever, how many times, I thought I heard the commander say, Spencer, there's no way out. You'll just have to fuck it. This struck me as odd at the time, and I never thought to look it up until your discussion of a similar subject. Sure enough, Bionic Commando, fuck the mohole. This video is not edited very well, but it clearly demonstrates that sometimes, for absolutely no reason, your commander definitely says fuck it instead of fight it. The subtitles don't even change to reflect the difference. Love the show, and thanks for reading, Eric Lehman.
That's exactly what we talked about last week.
It is.
Perfect.
What game was that you were talking about?
Bionic Commando Real.
No, I mean the one we were talking about last week. You were talking about like a skeleton that just turns to you and says, fuck you?
Well, that wasn't actually a thing that happened in the game. I mean, I was talking about Infinifactory.
You were saying that you wished that would happen in Infinifactory. Yeah. But it turns out that it was beat to the punch by a shitty Bionic Commando game 10 years ago.
What a crazy thing.
The best part of that game, and this is a spoiler.
Well, the second best part now.
Yes, the second best part of that game is that the big spoiler at the end was your new arm came from like your wife or something. There was
your wife is like inside your arm.
Yeah, dopey thing.
Seems cool.
Definitely the second best part of that game.
Yeah, good.
Maxwell Young writes, Dear Boost Remo, Video Games Rodkin, Famous Vanaman, and congrats Nick Brecken. How long will it be until Danielle earns a nickname? Has this even been considered?
Mints, Junior Mints, already happened.
Junior Mints, get on the train, people here. Yeah.
That was like episode 1.
Yeah, that was
or 2.
One of the first times Danielle was on the show.
The Danielle era.
Yeah.
Yes, I love my name.
Let's see.
But that was it.
Corey Schroeder.
I like that.
What? That was the whole email, yeah.
And answer.
They were in there.
Corey Schroeder writes, Hey, Thumb folks. Hearing the discussion of the amazing /awful Super Mario Brothers live-action movie on the recent podcast made me recall an odd theory I've maintained over the last several years. The Mario Brothers movie would have been better if it had not been called Super Mario Brothers the movie. What if the movie had been the same, but changed the names of Mario, Luigi, and Koopa and kept everything else the same? I always found the movie to have, at least, a coherent and cohesive vision for its world. If it had been merely an homage to the games rather than a direct interpretation, would it have been better received? Loving the podcast, Corey Schroeder. P.S. Hey Jake. P.P.S. Danielle, if someone's going to try boxing, do they need to be good at jumping rope? Because I always see those in the training videos, but I'm awful at it. Also, you rock.
Well, to the last point, I was pretty awful at it too when I started again. But yes, you usually...
But now you're a boxer, which means inherently you're a great jump roper.
No, I'm not great at it, but you do learn with practice. And you do actually usually have to do it for training purposes.
All right. So it's not just like a Rocky montage
It's
thing.
not just a Rocky montage thing. We have like 20 ropes in our gym, and that's usually a station when we're doing circuit training.
Why is that? I could guess, but I'd rather you.
It's really good.
me.
It teaches you to stay on your the balls of your feet, basically, which is what you need to be doing when you're in your boxing stance the whole time. And it's just really good cardio. Okay. So it's for that. It's for both of those reasons.
As far as the Mario movie,
I love this idea.
I know. I don't think that the movie would have been better received, but I think that its arc as a cult movie would have just been exponentially increased because people would just be like, "What is this?"
That would be a midnight movie for sure.
Forever.
If
Forever
that
and
movie
ever.
had no like acknowledgement or license to anything from Mario, but had that world in it and those weird costumes and shit,
Yeah.
it would 100% be a cult midnight film.
Yeah. So
It would be like Labyrinth or something.
Yeah, no, it would be a weird Lost Henson movie, but of the video game, like of the Nintendo generation of like the Mario Mania era, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Corey Schroeder is a kid that I babysat when he was in kindergarten.
Was that the person who wrote
The person
in?
who actually
Yes.
wrote in?
And
How do you know it's the same one?
because he said, "P.S. Hey Jake,"
Oh my god!
I know that it's him.
Do you know him like in your life now currently?
Only a little bit. Like he writes sometimes for Comic Vine. He owns a comic book store in San Francisco somewhere.
That's awesome.
That's cool. What
but-
comic book store does he own? Oh man! Not that I know San Francisco comic book stores, but
I think it's in West Portal. I think it's called Two Cats.
Oh, nice.
cool.
Is that 'cause what's his last name?
Schroeder.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know the
I
name
know.
of the name.
It's really close.
Oh, is that why it's called Two Cats?
I don't know.
No, there's no way. It's Schroeder.
Maybe it is, though.
No, it's
but
not.
yeah, he was a few years younger than me. Like he was, I was old enough to babysit him, but I was still like in like late elementary school or junior high or something.
Yeah,
but
7th grade.
he was the kid who I really liked to babysit because he had a Nintendo and a Genesis, and I only had a Nintendo, and we just played video games all the time. Like I got him hooked on
Workshop is a sequel for the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah. Oh well, I would not be surprised if we both went and saw that movie when I saw it. I think that I was younger then. That had already come out and been forgotten. But like, he was like kid that I babysat who I thought was really cool because he liked a lot of the same stuff that I liked, even though he was younger than me. Like I got him
awesome.
hooked on Mystery Science Theater, and then he told me that Space Ghost existed a couple years later.
Oh, man.
So like we just had 90s, slightly too young for 90s counterculture dorkouts about all of that stuff. So that's good. Thanks for writing in. Makes me happy.
Call me.
That's really cute.
I
Yeah.
follow him on Twitter.
That's cool.
Yeah, video games.
Yeah.
Two
I think I've
cats.
talked about Corey semi-anonymously as the kid that I babysat who had all the
think you
systems I didn't
It's,
have.
like, very like lightly ringing a bell in my mind. Yeah.
Weird.
All right, so this might be the last email because it's a little long. So Kevin Francis writes, "Hey Thumbs, I've been a long-time listener of the podcast, and I continue looking forward to the new episodes where I can learn about the best new hidden games on the Steam store. AAA releases coming up. Is that what we talk about? I don't know what maybe he's writing into the wrong podcast. And mobile games that destroy my ability to make conversation with strangers on the train. I'm looking at you, Desert Golf.
Okay, that we do talk about.
He's
He's
the
going
correct
to the right
podcast.
podcast.
With the handshakes out of the way, I have an observation that you may find interesting. The Resident Evil series has stood out in my gaming days as the series that always hooked me. Other than a few notable duds in recent years, I've played every game in the series to the point where I could probably draw the maps from memory, and I'm sure I'm not alone. At least I hope so. Upon hearing that the original is being remade again, I immediately pre-ordered it on Xbox Live. Then I thought what the motivating factors might be that would encourage me to play a game I've completed multiple times on multiple platforms. PS1, DS, GameCube, PC emulator, PS3 store. I came up with a simple conclusion: achievements. Going through my game library, I came to the realization that I have 4 copies of the original Resident Evil and the remake for GameCube. Why on earth would I need another copy of the game? Maybe the pretty new HD visuals, the improved control layout, or the ability to play on a widescreen LED display. But there's more than that to entice me to play again. I have trouble keeping my attention on a game that does not have minor progression points pinging up on the screen to tell me, good job, you did something we wanted to do, here's some points. It's a psychological satisfaction that is underused in many facets of life. But when it comes to video games, I feel it has actually taken away self-achievement. It's the feeling you get when you beat a Mega Man chapter without dying, or unlock Tofu's chapter in Resident Evil 2. Nobody else knows you did so unless you show them on the console or cartridge you accomplished the goals on. It made you want to complete a game just for the personal gratification it allowed you. Unfortunately, I have succumbed to this achievement fever. Do any of you feel the same way, as if games need to tell you to feel gratified with your performance? As always, keep up the fantastic show, and thanks for your time. Kevin Francis.
I went through a period on the Xbox 360 where I enjoyed getting achievements.
I did too.
Because it was like playing like Geometry
Early
Wars
on in
and
the 360
like
life, I
Yeah.
definitely did, yeah.
that duck, for instance. Also super into Achievos.
Yeah, I was going to say that duck is like a total Chivo.
It was like a window that opened and closed for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just...
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Danielle.
I was going to just say the thing that I feel is a pretty common thing. I like achievements when they actually encourage me to play a game a different way or to find something hidden or something like that. But I kind of hate them when they just reward you for progressing normally through the game. Like, oh, you beat a chapter. Here's,
So that's interesting.
A
So,
lot of times, for what it's worth, though, I think those achievements are in games only because they have to have achievements in the game, so they put them in the most rote place they can to just get them done.
yeah.
Like,
I think it ends up creating a no-win situation because for creating the sense of organic achievement. Because if a game, so Danielle, like you're saying, you like the games that encourage you to play in a different way or find something secret. But on the other hand, that does kind of take away the uniqueness of you doing that. Like it completely removes any potential thing that's like, oh, I'm like the one who found this thing. Not that that's likely to ever be the case in reality, but like
or the personal sense of discovery of the possibility.
Right, yeah, it completely flattens it out because you're like, oh, they designed this for me to do that and put a thing there that
I think that there's a place where that works.
I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying that like the other, like, so there's that, then there's the other kind of thing you're talking about just like it tells you you're going through the thing, which is obviously also like the opposite of what an achievement is. Like that's not, you certainly have not achieved anything by playing through the game. But because the achievements are just required on certain platforms anyway, you're just guaranteeing that you have to do one of those things pretty much. I mean, not that there's no such thing as good achievement design, but like the hard requirement that they must be in the game is like a really shitty, like Sophie's choice for developers because you kind of have to do one or the other. Like there's not a lot,
Well, there's also the third axis of this, which I think a lot of developers succumb to, unfortunately, which is the pressure to make most achievements semi-achievable.
Right, I think because people get really pissed off.
Because the best achievements are the ones that are like, Danielle, like the ones that you're describing, but the most ludicrous ones of them, where it's like it's an achievement that is a hidden achievement that you don't know even exists in the game, but then it's like you cause a physics glitch so that your character, when holding 3 items, flies all the way up and touches the top of the sky dome, and then the achievement comes in and is just like, ha 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 ha, holy crap, and you're like, okay, the developer accounted for that maybe happening, but it's only listed as an achievement because it's a ludicrous borderline impossibility. So when you do get it, you feel like you're like touching, basically, like you're almost like high-fiving the game developer for just like, you are doing something so stupid. And like that's
what I liked about that Grim Fandango tank control one that Tim put in the game.
When it feels more like it's I agree.
Well, that's funny because that one in itself is like a meta joke.
It's a meta joke, and it also feels like the developer
explain what this was.
Tim is telling you something about the game.
If you beat Grim Fandango
originally shipped with these tank controls that are, I guess, kind of like Resident Evil. Actually.
It's very much like Resident Evil,
which
1.
are bad. Are heralded to be bad by most of us.
They're character relative, right, rather than camera relative.
Yes,
exactly.
Up always makes the character walk forward from their
regardless of what direction that is. Yeah.
But Tim Schafer has always liked that about his.
That's how the game was designed.
That's how the game was designed, and there is backlash from I think even the original team working on the game about what the controls should be. All the way, like the controls of Grim Fandango have always been sort of a thorn in its side, and I think it's always kind of like stuck in Tim's craw as well that people don't just like what he likes. So there is they redid the controls for the PS4 version. You can
and the new PC
and just walk around. There's point and click on the PC release. But if you play with tank controls and complete the game the entire way through with tank controls, you get an achievement called like the right way to play.
Right. Yeah. To their credit, that's not the default method. Like if you have a controller plugged in on PC or if you're playing on PS4, it defaults to camera relative, not player relative to controls, which are a lot more natural for people who I think almost
basically
anyone.
Ever since Mario 64, that's how you expect the joystick to move a 3D character around.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It just sucks that achievements can be a really cool tool to communicate to your players something outside of the game or something like that's one layer above the game, but they're not a tool, they're a requirement, which is bullshit.
Because as soon as they're tied into a system and they're not just a thing a developer puts in their game, as soon as it's like a shared thing that goes in your profile and there's points that they accrue, like as soon as you do that,
there's
you
then
turn
rules
it into
and a culture around
you turn it into a game in like the shitty sense of a game. In other words, something to
Gamify
be
it.
gamed.
Yes.
Right.
You know, which is as opposed to something to be played. Like, and it's a really shitty distinction. And the Xbox 360, Xbox One version of it is definitely the shittiest of all because one, they are required, and two, do they still do this on Xbox One? There is a like maximum number per game, which means you know when you've achieved the maximum number. So even if you have a secret
there are
achievement,
strong. I don't know what the actual
because that was the case on that was the
on
original.
360. There was
360.
I don't
maybe
know if they've
1,000
changed
points
those.
or
If
whatever
they've
it
changed
was,
those
yeah.
restrictions
Yeah.
between points and amount that you're allowed to give and things like that. But like, I know the tech side for actually implementing that stuff is a lot more intense because the Xbox One supports incremental achievements as opposed to binary achievements.
Right.
So as opposed to just turning on,
which
you walked.
Steam has had for a long time.
Yeah, as opposed to you walked 10 miles, it shows you, you've walked 9.1 miles already. So
Yeah.
you watch it go up, which is, I see the argument for that being cool, but it's way better as a tool for developers as opposed to a requirement for developers. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know why achievements have to be required.
Well, but this
It
is
makes
the
no
other,
sense to me.
yeah. Well, the other thing that's kind of related to that, and I completely agree with you. But on the other additional like complicating factor there is that as soon as anything like that ostensibly rewards a player, even if it's a totally empty reward that gives them nothing, as soon as it's optional, people will complain when you don't include it, even if it's not technically required. It's really a thing that is real, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not that I would still much rather have it not be required, but that is a thing that that's one of the reasons platform developers have to be really careful about what they introduce to their platforms, because as soon as you put anything in there, now it becomes one more thing that developers are kind of implicitly
People
always on the hook
effectively
for.
expect to get, in quotes, for free as a customer of that platform.
Exactly, and if a developer doesn't do it, it's a lazy dev. Like, it's amazing.
It's funny though, because like only on the stuff that somehow catches, because like for a while it felt like, gotta support that Connect, gotta support that, and then like,
But that's
people
different
didn't
because
actually want
that's
that
a peripheral
stuff.
people have to buy, and it like changes the
Well,
game.
shit,
The
for a
Xbox
while,
One shipped with Connect
yeah.
when it first came
yeah,
out.
that's true.
But like,
Eventually people just don't like it,
but
right?
an example
Well, 'cause
of that though,
it requires investment from the player. Like, it's a whole big thing.
but like a hardware example of that is like the hardware example of this generation is the Wii U TV screen. Everyone expects that you can press a button inside of a game and pop the game from the TV to just be playing 100% on that screen, but there's no API support for that. Every developer has to write their own implementation of it. But since Nintendo first-party games all do it, and since the back of the box says, you can do this, asterisk some games, that's just expected.
Right.
And like, I don't think everyone expects every Steam game to have Steam trading cards at this point, but you're more or less expected to have all of that shit in your Steam game at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's dumb.
I mean, the stuff of this, there are versions of it that I think are reasonable, like Steam Cloud saves. That's a thing that, like, sure, as a developer, you still have to support it, but it's like unambiguously positive. Like, it's hard for me to come up with a reason why that would be harmful to a game. I feel like it's actually beneficial for consumers. Like, it's an actual consumer benefit thing that is just good. Like, that's great. But the stuff like achievements is like actually intrusive onto your game design in a way that is kind of really hard to just shrug off. Like, even doing the kind of just like the sort of technical minimum version of it itself is like you're sending a message. You just can't ever back out of it. You either have to not put them in at all, or you have to put them in a way that is like making a statement.
I would not give a crap about any achievement infrastructure and supporting it in any game I ever worked on if the certification requirements for achievements allowed developers to have a checkbox in their game that is default to off for the notifications to pop up, and then let customers turn it back on. But if I could pass cert on Xbox, PlayStation, and have everything that's like show achievement pop-ups when in-game, and that if I could ship a game where that is unchecked, and then a customer could turn it back on if they want, and they still get all the achievements, I don't care. They can just be cheeky, goofy cartoon icons. Like, fine. But
That'd be a thing that they could implement
give you the
now
choice,
without totally changing any fundamental aspect of their
yes,
system.
but I don't think that they will because
No, I don't think they will either.
achievements are like every time one comes up, it's an implicit endorsement of the meta structure of why you're playing this console.
It reminds you that you're playing
even though
that console.
every system does it. It's not a unique selling point either.
No, but it's not that it's a unique selling point. It's
you
that,
see Xbox branding intrudes over your game because your game is on Xbox or PlayStation or Steam or whatever.
It's reminding you that you're in that ecosystem right now.
Right. You get a Steam achievement, and it's an implicit thing saying, remember, you can press Shift-Tab and just pop open the store and jump to another game.
Yeah.
It sucks. I don't know. Like, that would solve all of it for me. Like, if it's just... Because it is where, like... The same thing as cloud saves to me in a certain degree, where it's like, it's a part of the meta structure of the thing intruding on the game, but only so far that it doesn't actually literally draw on top of your creative choices. And if the achievement pop-up didn't have to draw literally on top of your game screen, I wouldn't care if it's there, because then it feels like a part of the operating system.
Yeah.
But just like the idea of your console's OS being able to just draw a dialogue box on top of a game that people have paid for is really frustrating to me, because there are people who don't want it and they can't turn it off, both developers and customers.
Steam you can.
On Steam, can you? Oh, you can, I think. But
maybe you can turn them off on the consoles as well, but
you can create like toast safe areas, I think.
I just mean players. Like,
as a player, can you just say, don't ever show me these?
Oh, I don't think
know.
so.
I've never sat down to anyone's Xbox that is not mine and seen that they've turned it off. So yeah, on Steam, I think you can tell to not show those things, but we don't know. It doesn't seem like a thing you can do. Toast safe areas. If there's
Toast safe.
Achievement pop-ups are called toasts. At least they are or were on Xbox.
They are in the Xbox like language, official language. Yeah.
So a toast safe area was so you can sort of shunt all of your achievement pop-ups out of the game.
So in like spoiler, when Clementine shoots Lee in the fucking face, it doesn't just be like end of game, like ding. Like, are you fucking kidding?
Yeah, you can say they've achieved their achievement.
You can turn off Xbox
that is a big spoiler
notifications on 360.
That's
cool.
not what I did. That's not what happened in my game.
Okay, good.
So
you can turn them off. Cool. I should go turn them off.
Bleep that.
But like,
feel bad now.
bleep it out.
But I don't know. If that could be turned off per game, it would be a delight.
Yeah,
I'm sure that would mean that every game developer would just turn them off. But
no, that's
not true.
There's a lot of game developers who would not turn them off.
But I would definitely turn them off for like experiential single player games.
Like just make it a tool for people to use. In a flexible way. Yeah.
We've flipped around on this thing for
achievements have been beaten to death. We should talk about achievements next week. Why don't you email us and tell us what to talk about next week at questions@idlethumbs.net.
All the ways we were completely wrong in that discussion. I'm sure there were many.
By tweeting at us at idlethumbs.
Or leaving us a Facebook post at facebook.com/idlethumbs.
And we're on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/idlethumbspodcast. Danielle, you've been streaming on Twitch.
I have. At Idle Thumbs.
Twitch.tv/idlethumbs.
People should go to our SoundCloud for this episode and leave inline comments about the moments in which we are wrong. Just say, that's not how it works. Can't do that.
I check those every week.
Else.
We never really get them.
I know.
Those are fun.
I love those inline comments on SoundCloud.
If you've got a beef about our stupid achievement conconversation or about everything we got wrong about the Smash Brothers Pro scene or about when the story was introduced in Mario game, just drop it in line. Just tell us we're wrong all over it. Because it would be such an enjoyable experience for me to go back and scrub through that episode and just watch things and be like, nope, wrong.
No,
that's not how it is. Sorry. Nope,
idiots.
Shut up.
And then the ones like, you got this one right, with another comment immediately after saying, no, they did not.
You followed it up incorrectly.
Strike through.
SoundCloud.com/idlethumbspodcast.
Leave us abusive comments. I mean, nice ones if you want, but we probably don't deserve them. Thanks for listening.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Sensational underpants for you and your loved ones that you can get at MeUndies.com. You can go to MeUndies.com and use the promo code THUMBS to get 20% off your first order and free shipping.
I think the slogan is MeUndies, comfortable underwear for you and me.
I want the Klax underpants.
Undies, comfortable.
Yeah, we got that. We got the application there.
Well, it is loops. MeUndies, comfortable underwear for you and me. MeUndies, comfortable underwear for you and me.
It feels like the spokesperson for MeUndies should just be like some Austrian, like, sassy man. He's like, MeUndies! You know what I mean? Who just, like, doesn't know how to speak English so good.
He's just, like, basically the voice of Heimlich the caterpillar from A Bug's Life.
MeUndies!
I learned how to make this from my mother.
My mother's undies.
My mother taught me how to make
cool styles for men and the women.
MeUndies, I was the 90s.
This quality would typically retail for 2 times the price.